you went around 40 different places and conducted, orientations and other thing. Uh, but I also see from your presentation as well as in the website, there is some kind of a special interest in Kashmir. And you've been keep mentioning some places, Kashmir Renaissance and other things. And in particular, uh, you also give special interest to going into Muslim universities or colleges. Why not to other places as well?
See, I have already mentioned to you we in this earlier stages of the interview that the basic prompting for starting this additional facility under the CAD Foundation of India for competitive examinations 10 years after the CAD Foundation came into being was prompted by the report of Justice Sachar Committee. Justice Sachar Committee said that Muslims are lagging behind every other community in every field, and the fundamental reason of that is that Muslims are abjectly underrepresented in the governance of the nation. And that report has been accepted by the Union Cabinet, has been placed before the Parliament, and the Committee of Secretaries of the Government of India, headed by the Cabinet Secretary, was appointed to monitor the implementation. So that implementation is still ongoing. So because of that, we thought that yes, under Article 15 and 16 of the Constitution of India, the government is mandated to identify the weaker sections of society and take special steps to bring them up in the national mainstream. So that is the duty of the government according to the Constitution. But then, as enlightened civil society, we should complement the efforts of the government in that regard. In fact, government is already doing. There are special scholarships, etc., for that. But we thought that we should facilitate this process, and that's why we established the civil services facility under the CAD Foundation of India. Having said that, we have to reach out to it's open to every community, but we must reach out to Kashmir, because Kashmir has been a very special part of India. Number one, it is border state. Number two, that there is a special history, special constitutional history. It had a special status till last year, which has now been abrogated by the Parliament of India. And but so in the totality, if you see, even before this abrogation, Kashmiris were quite alienated, and they had to be reached out, and they had to be counseled. So therefore, we gave special attention to that. And as far as you are saying of this Islamic University of Science and Technology in Srinagar, so from there I had got an invitation, because they knew that I am already doing this work. The CAD Foundation of India is already doing this work across India. So they did not want to stay behind in this process. So they reached out to the ZFI, and responding to their invitation, yes, I went there and gave the presentation. It was not the first presentation. In fact, maybe it was the 6th or 7th presentation. The ZFI has been organizing such programs where the boys and girls of Kashmir have to be brought into the national mainstream. So that was one of the reasons, and we hope that the rest of India should keep on doing that. Even this year, one of the candidates who got selected through ZFI in Kashmir Valley, she received a letter of appreciation and greetings from the current Lieutenant Governor of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. So that is an all-round effort which all good Indians should keep on doing.
So when you talk about presentations, I could see that there are a couple of presentations. You've been a civil servant for the last 3 decades and worked along with closely with the high officials in the government, and also you've been OSD to Dr. Manmohan Singh as part of the Sachar Commission, and a couple of your presentation, like you presented in front of Mr. Modi in Gujarat in 2013, and then later to Mr. Nitin Gadkari. You are present at all this. How your presentations were received?
Oh, yes, wonderful. I had wonderful experiences on both these occasions. The current Prime Minister, when he was a Prime Ministerial aspirant, as well as Mr. Nitin Gadkari, who is the Union Minister, both of them listened to and watched my presentation of more than 1 hour, more than half an hour each, and in rapt attention, took a lot of interest. It was a pin drop silence on both the occasions, and at the end of the presentation, both of them has had a very positive word to give to me and to the Zakat Foundation and to the people of India. And in fact, Mr. Modi accepted two of my recommendations, because that's how it appears. And I can tell the details if needed. And in fact, we followed it up with him through emails. And secondly, that Mr. Nitin Gadkari said that he would definitely think about the points that have been raised, and his party will think about it, his government will also think about it. So it couldn't be better. It's wonderful.
So, in spite of all this, then very recently there are many things in the media, and one of the things that been talked about ZFI presentation is that ZFI presentations are aimed at kabza, kabza of Indians, or Satyendra karne wale presentation hai.
Yeah.
Or it's also shows that very showing government seal and all in the presentation. So it's trying to the government seal in the ZFI website. So it all been portrayed or discussed, saying that it is misleading.
As I said to you earlier, that we are doing our work in the Zakat Foundation of India as per the constitutional mandate, and fulfilling all the requirements, complying with all the regulations of the government, of the various laws, and as implemented by the government through various instructions. And we have been putting up on our website these compliances. So if somebody uses the compliances made by ZFI, which are reflected either in its own website or in the website of the Government of India, which has been showing the compliances made by ZFI. So if using that data, if somebody comes up and with some poetry, again I would say within inverted commas, and tries to take some undue advantage of that, so for that the laws of Parliament and the regulations of the government, they are sufficient to deal with, and add to that the judiciary. So the honorable judiciary is also dealing with it. The ZFI has 100%, more than 100% faith in these sacred bodies, in these sacred organizations, the constitutional bodies, the UPSC, the Government of India, the judiciary. So they will deal with it.
Sir, in the same line with the presentation, one of my last questions will be, this ZFI website is completely transparent? Because there are people saying that you keep deleting, which were there. So how do you reconcile?
every this thing website, and there are millions of them, every website worth the name has to be very dynamic. It can't be that if you put it up something there 20 years ago, it has to continue to be there. For that, then even the even the Government of India recently did away with so many statutory provisions, because they had become obsolete. So the process of becoming obsolete is a natural process. So whatever becomes obsolete, that must be replaced by whatever is new, and whatever is of current interest to the people who would like to see the website. So that's an ongoing process, and it is the goodness of its dynamism. So it has to be like that for every website.
Sir, on the other angle, your watchword. When I was reading Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, people used to say his breath was educate, educate, and educate. That's it. For you, it's also like upliftment of the community, upliftment of the people. And the one more thing that you keep saying, keep presenting is delimitation. Can
That's right.
you throw some light on it, please?
Yeah, yeah. As I just now mentioned to you, that Justice Sachar Committee has said that the Muslims are lagging behind in every field. The fundamental reason of that is their abject underrepresentation in the governance of India. So governance is of two kinds, administrative and legislative. So we have already talked about administrative governance. As far as legislative governance is concerned, the Sachar Committee went a step forward. It said that it has noticed that the underrepresentation of the Muslim community in the parliament, legislature, and in the local bodies is caused primarily because of one particular factor, and that is violation of the Delimitation Act Section 91C. The Delimitation Act Section 91C, constituencies that shall be reserved for the scheduled castes shall be those constituencies where the percentage of scheduled castes is comparatively higher. So if you analyze this term comparatively higher for one particular state, it ultimately goes to the highest. So those constituencies where the scheduled caste percentage is highest, they are mandated under Section 91C of the Delimitation Act to be reserved for scheduled caste. It's a mandatory requirement, statutory requirement. So this requirement, the Sachar Committee reported, has been observed in violation across India. So, and Sachar Committee was there for a limited period of less than 2 years. So Sachar Committee gave some instances of what it is saying. And in fact, in the covering letter of the Sachar Committee report, which was signed by Justice Sachar to the Prime Minister, he again mentioned this thing, that this is something of very special requirement, very special attention is needed of the government. And he had said that the matter should be referred to the Delimitation Commission for removing the anomalies that have been going on for decades. So, but nothing happened. The UPA government at that time did not take action on that particular recommendation. And since then, there has been no action. But then I, as president of the Zakat Foundation, brought it up before Dr. Manmohan Singh at that time when he was PM, and I brought it up before Mr. Narendra Modi also when he was the PM aspirant, and later on before Mr. Nitin Gadkari, and we followed it up with the Prime Minister. So that matter, of course, it is not a very simple matter, but this is a very important matter. So the end result of this exercise will be that the scheduled caste people are and shall remain their number of seats which are mandated for them in the constitution, in the law, that will remain as such. There is not going to be any change. But then scheduled caste people themselves want that they should be representing their own people rather than they should be asked across India. See, there can be one or two instances scheduled caste people are not representing scheduled caste candidates, scheduled caste MPs are not representing scheduled caste people. There can be a few instances, maybe 5%, 10%. But mostly the scheduled caste representatives in the legislature should be representing the scheduled caste. That's not happening mostly at the time. So therefore, the essence of the reservation is not being fully available, is not, they are not, the scheduled caste people are not be able to enjoy that. The other day, Mr. Udit Raj, former member of parliament, was speaking on a TV channel, and he said that he said this thing that yes, why are you interested in for the scheduled caste where there is hardly any percentage of scheduled caste available, while the Delimitation Act Section 91C says very clearly and loudly that those seats should be reserved for scheduled castes where scheduled castes are highest in percentage. So that is what we thought, that this matter had been raised by the Sector Committee. The recommendation had been accepted by the Union Cabinet. It has been placed before Parliament. But because of the shortage of time, the Sector Committee was not able to collect the data of all over India. So we in Zakat Foundation did that work. We collected the data all over India, and we have been bringing it to the attention of the people from time to time. And we are bringing it to the media, to the people, to the government, everywhere, to the lawmakers.
Sir, you are presenting so well, and thank you. But in the recent days, you've been invited to one of this TV channel called Sudarshan News. What is holding you? Why don't
Yeah.
you go?
Yeah, nothing is holding us. But
And
then, yes, you are right. The ZFI received a call some time ago from one gentleman who introduced himself as Nimit. Said, I am representing the Sudarshan News, and I want to interview ZFI. So my office has got a standard procedure for such requests. The office told that gentleman that kindly send your questionnaire by email to the GAR Foundation, and the email address was also provided. But those questions, that questionnaire has never come to us even today as we are talking to each other. After that, after some time, a mail was received on one particular evening, a little over 1 hour before their show was to begin, saying that please come to our show. But then they never sent the questionnaire. There are constraints of pandemic, like each one of us should continue to be in our homes and seats and wherever we are available. And the government of India is also counseling that don't move unnecessarily, etc. So that is another reason. But then the basic reason is that the questionnaire has not been received so far. That is why we could not to answer the questions.
thank you very much, sir. Let your tribe grow, and thank you for patiently answering some of my clarifications.